everybody. Welcome to FSOSS. I'm sure you've probably been here all day already. My name is Elizabeth, and I'm here to introduce to you Marc Lijour. He's the Director of Education at Cisco Systems Canada. And a little bit about him. He is an educator specialized in technology and innovation. He joined Cisco last year to lead the transformation of education in Canada. He helps school boards, colleges, and universities design strategies to improve student success and experience, positioning Canada as the best place to work, live, play, and learn. Marc is also a developer and an adept of free open source software. His first job experience was to develop a pre-web site on the late 80s French Minitel network. He started experimenting with Linux before the Y2K, installing school labs. Later, he worked for Mandriva Linux distribution, specialized in software engineering and distributed work. He's a big fan of DevOps and the cloud. And his presentation for us today is Open at Cisco.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Can you hear me fine at the back? Yeah. Maybe I don't need the mic. I'm getting a big mic. This is working. Nice. All right, thank you. Now I can speak very. Oh, okay. Can you hear me fine? Oh, yeah. Oh, great. Thank you so much. So, and thank you everyone for attending today. I'm a big fan of FSOSS. I've been here in a few years in a row, and been a big fan of what is happening also at Seneca, and what I've seen. I'm very impressed. So I wanted to take the opportunity now that I'm working for a big IT company to share a little bit about what this big company is doing in the realm of open source. And I think I had to do some research actually inside Cisco to find out, because one thing about this great company is that they don't like to brag a lot about what they're doing. They don't like to brag a lot about open source. So I'm going to share a few things, and by no means I am a reference at Cisco. I'm a teacher, so I'm going to tell you a few things about myself. Just so you understand where I'm coming from. So I'm an educator, and that's why they recruited me at Cisco. I'm focusing on innovating education, and because technology is part of every industry today, just because everyone has a cell phone, a tablet, and because everything is happening on the internet, the MOOCs, we find out that K-12, higher ed colleges, universities are really threatened by a disruption that's frankly happening right now. And they're turning to big companies like Cisco to look for advice. How do I manage these IT components? How do I get to the level of where I need to be to provide a basic level of service? What is the basic level of service I need to provide to my students? How do I manage innovation going forward? Because innovation is going so fast, you really need people that are really on top of this. So that's what I'm saying. And I started to, a few years ago, like about 20 years ago, I was teaching math and science. I did a few tours in Mexico and Portugal. I had a lot of fun. And when I was in Mexico, I discovered that really when a license of any kind of software, let's say Visual Studio or any package software, would be like 10 times the price for local. I started to think about this, and maybe I thought maybe it doesn't make too much sense to pay a lot of money where really the price is not up to the level of your life. So open source started to make sense to me. And the principal of the school at the time had the son working for Mandrake at the time. It was about 98, so fairly new. And that's how I fell into open source. When I came in Canada around 2000, I was running the lab for the Lycée Français here, the spin-off of the Toronto French School that you probably know. And it was running a lab. I had a virtual lab, hybrid Windows and Linux using Red Hat and Mandrake. Mandrake had a business case study up there. Like people talked about us for a few days on the web, and then we had my glorious moment. And I worked in research and development in 2006 with a project funded by the EU with 3 Linux distributions, Mandrake, Mandrake, and well, you know, it's so at the time, Caixa Magica from Portugal and another one, and 7 universities, and we are looking at developing a better way to manage package management. So the DLL hell existed in Linux with the RPM world, so if you remember that. We built a solver and we looked at distribution of packages across the different mirrors across the globe. It was really interesting, very fine people, great project. And I was teaching, so I got actually between 2006 and after, I worked 7 years at the Ministry of Education here looking at the curriculum for Tech Ed. One of the things my contribution to open source was actually to get Open Office in the textbook at some point, because it was used by a fairly significant number of schools. It was a free package, and we got that as almost part of the curriculum. And here I'm at Cisco, and really where I'm coming from a philosophical point of view, is really I'm a teacher, so it's really about learning. How do you develop yourself? How do you collaborate? And the Cisco story about collaboration and converging really fits with my ethics. And let me tell you a little bit more about what I'm doing. What I'm doing is trying to reinvent education. And what is the classroom, what should be the classroom of today? So that's really what's on the back of my mind. Today you're gonna find that everybody brings wearables, phones, devices, cameras, everything gets connected to the internet. The big Cisco story is what happens when you converge all these things and they start talking to each other and you start being able to look at those as objects that you can program and make work together. You can actually develop an experience now. So you have the web and you have all these APIs and SDKs, and if you're a programmer, you just tap into it and create your own experience, your own service. So it's almost like the web is a platform, but now your home, your building, your workplace is almost a platform for you to program it. So the DNA of Cisco is about connecting things. You have amazing engineers and that are coming from the IP world and the internet world and the backbone. So the key things about Cisco is a lot of R&D. The company goes in markets only if it can be number 1 or number 2 in the market. If it cannot achieve that, the company will exit the market. So very focused company that doesn't want to do everything. It wants to do things very well and be a platform for other companies and partners to drive or to build on top of it. So we have 70,000 partners to Cisco. Some of them are reselling, some of them are building stuff on top of Cisco, adding things on the stack. We have untraditional partners now, like a Pearson, like a Samsung. We're bringing them together, we're building a story for a new kind of education in the classroom. So I'm going to go very quickly about that because you're being here in a conference, you're really familiar about communication and the amazing pace of innovation. And so when you look at the future now, you're looking at tremendous growth of IP traffic. A lot of video is becoming, rich media is becoming the majority of the traffic on the internet. And the cloud, everybody's talking about the cloud, so 5 times growth in 2020 expected. So basically this thing is not going to slow, but it's going to accelerate. The amount of data, the amount of devices that are talking together, and so the opportunities for entrepreneurs and programmers to actually tap on top of it. So a little bit about the Cisco story, and it's a love story. when you look at the Cisco logo, it's a bridge. And it's coming from the 80s, where you had Sandra Lerner and Bozak, were two lovers. They were a couple, and they were working in two different buildings. So they said, well, what if we connected those two buildings? And they started to work on some protocols and connecting these computer systems. So, of course, like at the time, everything comes from Xerox parts for some reason. And somebody brought an Alto machine on the Stanford campus where these two were working. And that's the same machine that inspired Steve Jobs for the Macintosh later on. And it came with Ethernet. And based on this Ethernet, like this inspired a lot of the team at Stanford and this couple, and they created a multi-protocol router called the Blue Box. And that was the starting of Cisco as a company. And the company grew pretty quickly, and a lot of these equipment went into forming the backbone of the internet, and Cisco is de facto the major company in the networking business today. But the very interesting story that speaks to me is a story of convergence. Since the beginning of the Cisco, the first product was a multi-protocol router that took two different networks and make it connect and talk together. Then we have VoIP and merging the IP protocol and the internet, the data with the voice and the phone. These were, again, two different systems. Now you have products like iPix and other products that are coming that are also speaking to this convergence. So now you have radio, phone, internet, everything is being converged. And the same thing is happening more and more now with all these devices, the thermostats, the HVAC, the security systems, the door locks, everything is getting on the same network. And that we call that the Internet of Everything. So these are some of the portfolios that you probably know already, like Cisco for networking, but Cisco bought Tandberg a couple of years ago, so a lot of video conferencing and collaboration, security. Data center is a big piece of it. Like not many people know that, but Cisco is #1 in the sales of UCS blades for the data center in America, North America. I think #2 in the world, but growing very fast. So data center is a big piece of what Cisco does today. And really the story today is about connecting these different things. So in the classroom, just to mention a few things that are really close to my heart, that's what a classroom would look like 4,000 years ago. And that's what a classroom looks like today. But I had a few pictures in between, and funny enough, a few years ago, it was really looking more like that, like that. So in a couple of years, since really the smartphone, we didn't see a lot of collaboration happening. But that's what's happening today. People are bringing more and more devices, and they use those devices to do what? They collaborate. They want to share documents. They don't want to be alone in their laptop. They want to be able to collaborate and do things together. So expectations, the social networks, the mobile, and using a lot of video, and also user-generated content. You want to create video. You want to be a participant. You don't want to be just watching and sleeping in the class. You also want to do things. And that's the future. We had Steve Bushnell yesterday at Mars. And the guy is the founder of Atari, and he was a mentor to Steve Jobs. He had some interesting stance about what education should be. And I had a couple of things on my Twitter feed, so if you find me on Twitter, you're going to see a few quotes and a few pictures. He has an interesting list of things you should learn by grade 12 that has nothing to do with programming or math. It's really about, why don't you learn in school things that you actually use in your life? And then why don't you do things and learn things that make you engaged and excited about creating and doing things. So it's really he says education should fix not ignorance but apathy. I think that's really interesting. And now today, when you have the tools, you have everything really at hand to make something like an experience truly amazing in the classroom. So some of the things you're going to find in the classroom to increase collaboration, but same in the workplace, sharing documents. So this one is based on WebRTC, which allows you to do video conferencing from within a web page. So you are on your college website, and you can actually place a video call, also chatting and everything. But and with that one, you can also do co-browsing. It's kind of the future of communication, where you bring together. It's about convergence, where you bring people from a Cisco room, a Polycom room, a Link, and you get together at the same place, and you can communicate from their device or software of choice. And that's really the future. So what we're trying to do, here's an example from Sheridan, because I had that on my PowerPoint, could be Seneca for that matter. So students are developing these apps, and I think you saw a couple of technologies they can use today. I was, for example, this morning at the WebMaker conference. It's not something that people would do in a tower. It's something that's happening in school. And that's something I want to promote. And so some of the things that Cisco does is we have that charitable program, Connected North, where with a lot of partners like RBC, you mentioned, and Sick Kids Hospital, we are bringing education and psychiatry to Nunavut, and we're expanding the program in Northern Canada, getting those kids and education in connection with the Museum of Art in Ottawa, and virtual field trips, and connection with the psychiatrists and mental health specialists, and also buddies and teacher training. So that's something that's really exciting. And we're using a lot of video to do that. Of course, Cisco is very well known for the networking academies, and you can get your Cisco training online. It's about 100,000 students in Canada. And we have these Pan Am games, different things we're doing for Pan Am. As a legacy, we're giving away, or we design STEM lectures to foster the learning science, technology, engineering, and math in the class. And that's something that's going to be available for free pretty soon. So that's the thing I like to talk about, because that's my thing, the education piece. So what do we see in the industry, and why does it matter for open source? Everything is getting faster. And you've seen like email that's almost an old story now. We get to a point where we talk about social media, the cloud, and so forth, and today is really about connecting those whole things together, bringing the devices. So I'm going to skip that one because a lot of chat. Here's a slide about a very interesting point, where a few years ago we already passed the inflection points where on the planet you have actually more devices than human beings. And considering that you have some countries where you would say like technology is not something you can buy really easily in the corner store, that's really fascinating. So we're looking at 50 million of these connecting devices in a few years by 2020. And Linux, for example, is one of the probably the prominent operating system among them. So virtually everywhere, in the fridge, in a car, all these embedded devices, from embedded devices to the top 500 data centers. 94% of these supercomputers are running Linux. And certainly if you go on a cloud and you can spin a Linux VM, virtual machine, chances are that this is the easiest option nowadays, and it's probably the preferred option. And we're also coming into, I was talking about these small devices here, and we're coming with to a point where these devices are so intelligent that you can actually have smart operating systems in them. And we're looking at Linux being a platform of choice in the edge of the network, where you can have something pretty close in the room, where you can design, let's say, for example, the home experience. So you should take Elizabeth's course because you're going to learn a lot about that. So who knew that Cisco is in open source? If you read the press a few weeks ago, you've seen about this bash bug. It's a bit inconvenient. But you look at the websites and you find this interesting security advisory. And there is one on the Cisco website. If you count the number of products that were affected, it's mind-boggling. Like more than 100 products affected by bash bug shell, which means the company is really using a lot of open source. And the new products that I've seen demoed for the classroom are really using some even versions of Ubuntu embedded in the router and different things. So side by side, you have the Linux OS, and you have even a Ubuntu, like a pretty rich and fat Linux distribution next to it. So Cisco is not only about using open source, but also looking at open standards. And that's come from the history on the networking side of things, where the IP, the Ethernet, the old IEEE or ISO standards or other bodies where really, when you want to bring convergence, you need to have a standard that everybody can work with. So no secret, something that's open, outside, public, everybody can use. Open source is a big part of it, and most importantly, most important. So you have open standards. You have maybe some of the most popular XMPP for chatting. We're using, I think, Cisco bought Jabber a few years ago. On the open source side of things, Cisco contributes to the Linux kernel. Some of the projects, virtualization is a big thing. So KVM, for example. Also the compiler, the GCC, and security with spam assassin. And Cisco also bought SourceFire, I think in the last year. And SourceFire maintains the Snort security distribution, which is a big piece on the security stack on the open source ecosystem. And we certainly look at continuing, a good relationship, I understand, with this community there. Eclipse, Apache, FreeBSD, you name it. Cisco has been also a founder in some foundations like Open Daylight, and OpenStack is a big piece of the Cisco future, and part of the, if you heard about the Intercloud Fabric, the network of clouds or the network of data centers that will allow you to move your virtual machines from Amazon, let's say, to take an example, from a data center like an Amazon to another data center like another one. So there is some open source development within Cisco, all those tools that I mentioned. Another thing you should know is the availability of grants that you can get on the website and get some money for you to develop some open source, so micro grants. So there are different ways actually to engage with Cisco, whether it's within a community or within a grant to get funded. So some of the exciting technologies that are in the open source or open standard world, I think the main one that's really changing the way we communicate today is WebRTC. And I mentioned that earlier, it's really the ability to embed a full audio-video connection. So now you look at HTML5 and the ability to do audio and video in the browser. What if you could actually pipe this with a network and traverse some firewalls and get access to a SIP number and get to place a call to someone? So what, at the bottom of my email now, I have a link. It's a URL. If you click on that URL, opens the web page, captures your camera, and you just click and call me, and it goes right to my phone, or my smartphone, all my other endpoints, rings everywhere. I can pick up the phone. So I give you a link, you call me from any web page, any device you want. And that's really the future. So Cisco is there, Google and Microsoft and all the big players, and we're working really hard to align and have the same standards to make it converge everything. So this one also, this one is a very old project. It started in 2012 with iPrime. And last year, Cisco open sourced the H.264 compression, the codec. So if you remember all these flash videos and all these video compressed over the internet, we're using mostly this H.264 codec. So actually, that's a big piece of it. So you can take the code and compile it yourself. And there is also some binaries on the website you can download and use. And so it's not only made available to you, but on top of that, Cisco pays for your use, because this technology is patented under MPEG LA. So so Cisco pays the fee for the patent use for you. So that's actually quite cool. The other big area, if you're an open source enthusiast and you're working in a data center, one of the big plays today is to connect these different data centers and to automate and orchestrate. If you heard a Twitter colleague a few minutes ago, just before the keynote, was speaking about Chef, Puppet, I don't know if you mentioned Docker, all this technology to get things moving faster and automate them in the data center. We're working on this at Cisco through the lens of an application, so application-centric. And around this application, you define a policy about who is able to access it, what are the resources in the data center that are needed to run it. So if it's a 3-tier program like a web app that has a database, a middleware, and a front like a proxy or a web server, you can define it in the policy. It takes care of all these different virtual machines. And the whole idea of writing this policy around the app, you drop it in the data center, and when it needs to scale, the system takes care of it. You don't have to worry about it. It just takes care of it. So Arcflex is an open source way to plug your own stuff to this system. And so you leverage not only the new technology like software-defined networks and all this OpenFlow and this great technology, but also the Cisco stuff that's on top of it, and you can plug your own system to it. So that's all open and standardized, and not likely to go away, because the play here is to actually do volume. So as of today, Cisco and partners have 250 data centers across the globe that are connected to each other as part of the intercloud. So the whole game is not to have a whole Cisco network, but having everybody speaking the same language and be able to collaborate and flip a VM from one place to another place, all based on policy, and making sure that your app, it's not only running well in the data center, but also has enough bandwidth And also at the other end, somebody on the little device like a smartphone or a bigger device like a desktop computer can actually enjoy a rich experience. Any device, anytime. So I talked a little bit about Snort. Here's another big program. It's not likely to go away. Security is one of the major issues today. If you follow the news, you heard about the Target problem. When Target, the retail stores, somebody decided to connect the HVAC system with the regular IP system. So these two networks were designed to be separate. Somebody plugs a cable on the wrong port, suddenly they connect, and boom, somebody gets in and gets access to all the private information, credit cards, whatever, and big security breach. So the story there is the more connected device you have, apps, HVAC systems connected to the other systems, these things are going to be connected anyway. So the attack surface is getting bigger. It's not getting smaller. You're getting the probability of getting attacked from somewhere is just increased exponentially. So this security is a big focus, not just for Cisco, but for the entire industry. And if you're not worried about it, then you should be worried about it. And if you're looking for a job, maybe that's somewhere you should look at. Actually, Cisco Canada is going to hire 2,000 new employees over the next 5-6 years. It's an agreement we have with the province of Ontario. And I understand some of these jobs, or most of these jobs, are going to go to cloud and security to develop something that within Canada with Canadian employees and growing the economy in the province. That's the deal with the government. So we're looking for those experts to work in Ontario and make things happen. It's mostly R&D. The other big thing is the Internet of Things. So these things that are talking to each other, I was telling you all these devices. So here's one open source project, the Cricket, to connect these different things together. It's based on RESTful API, JSON, all the good stuff you really like. I think it's an Eclipse, it's an Eclipse project. Presented, it's very recent. It's just one example of things that are going on right now. And because this thing is picking up really fast, I have a lot of diagrams, right? But if you don't know the value, you didn't hear about the IoT before, that's, you have so much data that are coming from cheap devices like cameras and sensors. They're really, really cheap. But if you look, let's say an example, let's look at the oil sands. And you have these big trucks going on and moving stuff. What happens when these trucks lack a maintenance? Just a single tire costs like $100K. All the equipment is super expensive. So the idea of placing routers and connecting these trucks and placing sensors to automate the maintenance, send warnings, send collision detection, has a huge business case. You save a lot of money. So we have business case studies out there with Dundee precious metals in mining as well. And then other areas like finance, manufacturing, they're all really big on these things. It makes a lot of sense from an economic perspective. So there's a lot of things to do from a programmer open source point of view. And the architecture that seems to be picking up is the fog model. And that piece in the middle is it's quite new. Most people are familiar with the computer and the cloud. So your Amazon or your Google or whatever data center, your Azure in the cloud, and you have a computer and you send stuff there. But what happens when you have a lot of data and video coming up from all these things? You're going to clog your network pretty fast. So you need something in the middle that is able to do storage and compute, crunch this data, and be very intelligent about the amount of data, the type of things you're actually moving up to the cloud. And you can look at it as a small cloud with compute storage close to the ground. So small cloud close to the ground, so people call that, it's a fog. Here you go, you are calling. New word. And here's another thing where you have a lot of open source embedded because of mostly Linux in that case. And that's the infrastructure you're going to find in the latest technology announced at the IoT World Forum a couple of weeks ago, where you have the regular networking OS and you have the Linux OS side by side. And you can look at this as a platform as a service. You can deploy your own apps, create your own APIs, hook up your own device, sensors, whatever you want, and connect it to the bigger cloud and your backend somewhere else. So there is a lot of activity there. From Cisco just released a software suite. I have a link here. I'm going to leave the slides available. So here's a link for you to look at the newscast. A lot of partners in the data crunching, visualization, analytics are all over it. So a lot of activities right now. So I would say, if you have, to your questions earlier, if you have to learn something in school today, security, big data, IoT, these are the things that I would learn, start registering myself to those courses today. So in 2 or 3 years, and it'll still be fairly pretty hot. That's my bet. So, okay, that's all good, but all right. What is the support from Cisco? So you have one site called DevNet. And DevNet is a free site. You can register, you get your name on it. Just ask for your first name, last name, and email address. That's all you have to say. And inside DevNet, you get access to 100 APIs, SDKs. You can play with some of these technologies like CMX, which is pretty cool. It's location-based with the access points. You can see where people work with their device, where the devices are located. You can do some cross-reference, like some very interesting use case, enabling things like when you get close to the device, something happens. So all these SDK APIs that you guys love, they're all up there. By the end of the year, civil year, which, let's say January 2015, we're going to have some sandboxes up there. So you can actually get your code up there and test a few things on the fly, virtually. And you get access to a community. So you have, right now, you have 100,000 registered users. And the goal for Cisco is really to push these things and get to 1 million users by 2020. And if you look at the different sides of Cisco conferences, there is a lot of efforts around that, a lot of pickup, like a lot of hackathons, like Cisco Live in San Francisco. There was a DevNet hackathon around the CMX things. And it looks like they're popping up every day. So a lot of activities there, and I expect a huge pickup, certainly a community to watch. And it's developer.cisco.com. The other thing that's there, if you're looking at launching your business, then for a little fee, you can get access to actually support and real people giving you, answering your technical questions. So you don't, hang out in the cold. If you really hit, a rock or something, you can actually get access to engineers, people that are doing that stuff. And that gives you other bonus like a discount on some machines and some free demo equipment. You can get shipped and try stuff for free. And I'm not mentioning the innovation center that we are building in Toronto, like this is Cisco Canada investment in downtown Toronto at Union Station. And it's going to be at the RBC Water Park Place building. I'm going to have 15,000 square feet open to the public, open to schools, open to developers, entrepreneurs, and we're going to run different programs where you can bring your own tech and try it out with the Cisco network, try it out with your partners, bring your tech, bring your pan, and try it together. And it's going to be not like a lab. My friend Chris is saying it's more like a kitchen. So you bring your own stuff and you cook together, it's friendly, you know you're going to make a lot of mess, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. So I leave you a few links in the slides for you to check it out. Everything open at Cisco is go open at Cisco, fairly easy to see, and check out the grants. Who knows, there's money to grab there. So, I mean, these are the big ideas. I could speak forever, but do you guys have any questions on anything that, and please, easy questions. But anything that's top of mind or you wanted to know or things that I said that doesn't check or seem wrong or whatever. I want to give you this opportunity to grill me a little bit. Don't be too hard. And we can always chat, you know, I'm here for the rest of the day, so feel free to connect. But if you're looking at, because I'm on the sales side of the house, although it's more like industry transformation and innovation, still attached to sales, it's at the end of the day, it's still a company that has to make money for shareholders, so you're watching their numbers and you have to stay relevant there. So one thing I'm very passionate about is entrepreneurship, innovation, and how do we make you successful? Because one thing you can do to contribute to communities, you know, give code, but what if we could give support? What if also we could give an opportunity to actually launch your own business? And now the technology is getting so accessible that it's really, I think, really close to closer than ever. There is a $19 trillion opportunity, according to a Cisco study, over 10 years, with all these connected things. So there is a lot of things, and this is not money for Cisco, this is really money in the field, in the domain. So that's the opportunity for you as an entrepreneur, or if you launch your own business, to go after. We have a lot of information online, internetofeverything.com, and a lot of white papers and studies, and you can see where we think the opportunities are. And you probably already know that, but why is this opportunity so big? And you know, we'll go back to the amount of data and devices that are coming to the network, and the different, you know, analysts, the Gartners and the IDC backing this with data and real strong analysis and their methodology. So what is the Internet of Everything? So that the CUDA is connected devices, so objects connect to data, process. This is the Internet of Things. When you get, for example, my wearable here to talk to my cell phone, and I have an app in it, if you take a picture, then the thing knows that it has to send the picture to my phone knows it has to send the picture to Google Images, and here you go. I don't have anything to do, just press a button. So it makes my life easier. And I'm kind of a lazy guy, so a use case I like is, imagine that I hate to wake up too early in the morning. So what if, by the way, don't you hate when you have a meeting at like 8 a.m. and you wake up at 7:45 and you end up seeing that somebody canceled the meeting? Is it bad? Isn't that bad? No, it's a bad feeling. So you can connect your calendar with your alarm clock today. So if the meeting gets canceled, then you get to sleep 1 hour more. And because your alarm clock connects to your coffee machine, that your coffee gets actually hot at exactly the right time. So that's the kind of life, as a Frenchman, that's the kind of life I expect. And that I'm counting on you to make that happen. And now add the people to it, because it's great to have this automated, but I think as a teacher, people are the most important things in the ecosystem. So we could have the best technology, but if nobody's there to use it or benefit from it, or leverage it to do something, then it's worth nothing. So when you get this technology to work better, or to work in virtual teams, or be able to work from home like I can do, I can actually, now I'm getting used to that stuff, I'm doing all my meetings from home. You don't want to see how I dress, you only need to see what's up there. It's really great. And then I don't have to take the traffic, and I can wake up at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. or whatever. So a little more information about DevNet. If you have questions, feel free to drop in. Raise your hands. These are the few things that you get when you get to this website. So these are the kind of the tools you get with a collective mobile experience, and you get those, can play with those tools and be able to play with the APIs that locate the device on the room, on the building, and automate different things, different use case I was telling you about, and that's what the pages look like. So very easy to find out things. So the Solution Partner Program is can be a thing. We have like a couple of slide decks on that one, but it's a very solid and structured program that is really fine-tuned. So you get access to Cisco salespeople. Probably one of the best salespeople in the industry, to scale your product and sell it for you, basically. Once you get certified, once you get with this process and all great with check boxes, you actually, Cisco is can help you with that. Plus you get support, and you get to a number of partner programs, conferences, documentation, training credits, and all that stuff. So I cannot speak too much to that because I'm not the person, but there is definitely value into this. And I left the link also. Probably if you're a software developer, you want to look at the Solution Partner Program. That's more fitted for industry or independent software vendors. So, Canada, the strategy, I mentioned a few things that Cisco does in education, like Connected North and the Pan Am Games. We're going to be the technology partners for the games this summer, so I'll expect a lot of things, and we want to leave a legacy in town. Some kiosks and some learning resources for STEM for the kids, and some other great stuff that we'll be learning pretty soon. But there are 5 points we're looking at, and everything is around these 5 points. Number one is increasing R&D in Canada, and that's the jobs I was talking about, and that means doing more things here with local talent that we know is really good, and being a contributor to the provinces, to the economy, and doing something that's Canadian as part of it's having Canada big inside Cisco. And we have a lot of great advocates. Our president has been terrific, and we have 2 Canadians at Cisco Corporate. We have actually the number 2 in command. Rob Lloyd is a Canadian, is a very good advocate for us. And the new person they hired 2 years ago to handle the new collaboration line, which is this video conferencing endpoint, this TV with cameras and all that stuff. They look really now like Apple products, very easy to use. He's also a proud Canadian. So we have a very good fit inside the company, and we want to leverage that. The research share program is our Endo share, so where Cisco gives a significant amount of money to a professor that is doing research in a specific area. So we're going to look at areas that are really close to where Cisco thinks the industry is going. So the IoT, the sensors, the big data, the smart healthcare, the hospital of the future, the mining, and so forth. So all this industry where we think we can make a difference and we need a little more research. We also have an investment program. So because we want to look at the entire continuum and not only fund research and just let entrepreneurs hang out in lacking support. So this new innovation program has $150 million attached to it for the next 10 years. And this money is for Canada to fund entrepreneurs, early ventures, and some of this money will go through VC funds that are established, like Novers, or like, I think some of those have been announced yet. I'm not too sure which one they are. And we have also some direct investment that's possible. I talked about the Innovation Center, and we're going to move to our new office by spring 2015, so I invite you all to drop by. It's going to be next to Union Station. You can take the path and just visit. We're going to have a public space where you can come in and read a little bit or learn a little bit about the Internet of Everything, talk to people there, talk to engineers, talk to partners or students that are coming in for hackathon or different things. That's really a place to collaborate and create this Internet of Everything together. And I talked about the intercloud and the network of cloud and these 250 different data centers hooked together. And the presence in Canada is starting to pick up. We have Dimension Data announced a data center in Canada last September. IBM has a software data center pretty close. So it's Canada is getting set up and equipped where it's been lacking. Some organizations don't want their data to be shipped in the US. It's been something our customers have been telling us for a long time. So certainly welcome. And we want to do more of this and we want to do it better. Some of these partners, like Dimension Data, they're also good partners for you. They provide an easy access to the cloud and these things, so I will check them out for sure. Yeah. So these are in writing some of these investments I'm talking about. Any questions? Yes, go ahead.
You mentioned the Internet of Things,
Yes.
and there's going to be a lot of things. I just wonder, I've read a few articles about product support. Cisco will be in a position to propose and hopefully mash a few heads to get a sort of protocol standard for getting support for all these devices. The literature seems to suggest that everybody who makes a device is doing their own thing, which of course is exactly the problem that we had in the early days of computers. So are we doing it again?
We're going in the right direction. So in 19, we have we're focusing on verticals and we're innovating in our own verticals of the education, but I'm sitting next to the real estate person.
But I'm thinking more horizontal.
Yes, but as an example, in the building, you used to have 16 different networks behind the walls. And I'm seeing these converging. I'm seeing more and more companies like Honeywell, Schneider Electric, Johnson Controls. All these companies are being collaborating now to share their data and to play well with each other.
I've not seen that in the literature.
It's happening, and we are pushing the boundary pretty well because we're having some projects, and we have a number of projects like the Bank of Canada and Georgetown Waterfront Campus, Carleton University. So we're working on the ground with those companies, and we're pushing the limits to make that happen. To your point, I agree. It's really early. But we're getting there.
Thank you. Good answer.
There's also lots of devices, like for example, there's open source projects that have protocols that you can kind of use to send messages to get messages. Or like Apache Active Queue.
I mean, I'm sort of thinking one step beyond the networking protocols, the protocols for asking for the service and getting something helpful.
It's an ongoing conversation. We're out of time, but thank you so much.
So I'd just like to give Marc a big thanks. It's always great to see a big company as well known as Cisco bringing something to Ontario. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.